Just imagine the year 1500. Europe has not yet arrived on these shores in any meaningful way, and the largest, most elaborately organised city in the Western Hemisphere sits on an island in the middle of a high-altitude lake in central Mexico. Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Triple Alliance, was home to somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 people at its peak, making it roughly 4 times the size of contemporary London and larger than any city in Europe at the time. Instead of just describing the past, I used AI to visually rebuild what a single ordinary day looked like inside that city, showing streets, markets, homes, and daily routines as they might have appeared from the first light of dawn through to midnight. The day begins before sunrise, and in Tenochtitlan that transition is not a quiet one. At first light, drums and conch shell trumpets sounded from the top of the Templo Mayor, the great double pyramid dedicated to the sun god Huitzilopochtli and the rain god Tlaloc that dominated the sacred precinct at the city's centre. The structure stood approximately 60 metres tall and was visible from most points in the city. Priests who had been maintaining overnight vigils performed the dawn ritual, which involved the burning of copal incense and, on ceremonially significant days, the sacrifice of captives taken in warfare. The Aztec cosmological framework held that the sun required a daily offering of blood to complete its journey across the sky, and the temple ceremonies were organised around that belief with considerable precision. For the ordinary resident of the city, the dawn ritual was a backdrop to the beginning of the household day rather than direct participation. A commoner living in one of the city's residential districts would wake on a reed sleeping mat, light the household hearth fire, and begin the morning water collection. This was made possible by an engineering achievement that consistently impressed later Spanish observers. 2 aqueducts, one running from the springs of Chapultepec on the western shore of Lake Texcoco and another from Coyoacan to the south, carried clean fresh water directly into the city. Citizens collected from distribution points throughout the neighbourhoods each morning, filling ceramic jugs for cooking and drinking throughout the day. At the same time, the canal system that threaded through the city was already in motion. Tenochtitlan was built on and around a series of natural and artificial islands, and its internal transportation network relied almost entirely on flat-bottomed canoes rather than wheeled vehicles, which the Aztecs did not use for transport. By dawn, farmers from the chinampa agricultural zones surrounding the city were already paddling their produce into the central markets. The chinampas were elongated plots of reclaimed lakebed, built up from layers of mud, vegetation and organic matter, and they were extraordinarily productive, capable of yielding multiple harvests per year. Maize, beans, squash, tomatoes, chili peppers, and a range of other crops arrived daily by canoe, supplying a city that had no surrounding farmland of its own. With the sun fully risen, the city's working population moved into its daily rhythm. All children in Tenochtitlan, regardless of social class, attended formal school. This was not a common feature of societies at this period, and it distinguished the Aztec educational system from most contemporary equivalents. Commoner boys attended the Telpochcali. Neighbourhood schools focused on military training, civic responsibility and practical knowledge. Noble boys attended the Calmecac, institutions attached to the temples that provided instruction in religious ceremony, writing, astronomy, law and administration. Girls attended separate institutions where they received instruction in weaving, household management and religious song. The schools were compulsory and operated under the authority of the priests and state administrators who ran them. While children were at school, the adults of each Calpulli were engaged in their designated trades and civic obligations. The Calpulli system assigned each neighbourhood a specific economic function and a collective responsibility for maintaining its local temple, contributing to state labour requirements, and paying tribute. Weavers, potters, feather workers, stonecutters, and merchants each had their own districts, where the relevant craft dominated the street-level economy. The centre of commercial life was the great market of Tlatelolco, located in the northern section of the city on what had originally been a separate island. Spanish accounts, including the famous letter from Hernán Cortés to King Charles I written in 1520, describe a market that was larger than any in Spain, organised into clearly defined sections for different categories of goods and supervised by a permanent staff of inspectors and judges who enforced standardised weights and measures and adjudicated commercial disputes on the spot. The currency of exchange was the cacao bean, supplemented by standardised lengths of cotton cloth called cuatli for larger transactions. Goods available included cotton textiles from across the empire, obsidian tools and weapons, live animals, cooked food, medicinal plants, gold and turquoise jewellery, and slaves who were traded in a designated section of the market under specific legal regulations. If you are enjoying this reconstruction, hit the like button right now. It massively helps the algorithm push this video to more history fans. And if you want more realistic historical recreations like this, subscribe and join the community. I've got much bigger projects coming. By noon, the heat of the lake basin was at its peak, and the midday meal was the most substantial of the day across all social classes. The dietary foundation of Aztec life was maize, processed through nixtamalization, a technique involving soaking dried kernels in an alkaline solution that increased the nutritional availability of the grain and made it possible to grind into a workable dough. This dough, called masa, was the basis for tortillas, tamales, and the thick porridge called atole that served as both a staple food and a medicinal preparation. Beans provided the primary source of protein alongside squash, tomatoes, chili peppers, and avocados. Commoners supplemented their diet with insects, including toasted grasshoppers and agave worms, which were a reliable and nutritionally dense protein source. Waterfowl from the lake, small dogs bred specifically for consumption, and deer obtained through tribute or hunting were available but less common in ordinary households. For the elite, the midday meal was a considerably more elaborate affair. The Emperor Moctezuma II reportedly ate from hundreds of prepared dishes at each meal, served by attendants in a formal setting that included entertainers, and drank from a golden cup filled with cacao prepared with vanilla and ground chili, a beverage that was reserved for the nobility and was not widely available to commoners. The midday period was also the time for the city's informal social activity. The plazas adjacent to the neighbourhood markets filled with people transacting business, resolving disputes, exchanging news, and participating in the ongoing civic life of the Calpulli. Children played patoli, a board game played on a cross-shaped grid using marked beans as dice, which had both recreational and ritual significance. The rubber ball game, Tlatelolco, was played in formal courts attached to the larger temple complexes and carried cosmological meaning, but informal versions of ball play were common in the plazas throughout the day. As the afternoon heat began to ease, the productive work of the city resumed across every sector of its economy. The craft industries of Tenochtitlan operated at a scale that supported both local consumption and the export demands of an empire that stretched across much of central Mexico. Feather workers, called amanteca, occupied a particularly high-status position in the artisan hierarchy because their products, elaborate mosaic cloaks, headdresses, and shields made from the feathers of tropical birds, were among the most valued luxury goods in Mesoamerica and formed a significant component of the tribute that subject cities were required to deliver to the capital. Gold workers, stonecutters, and the scribes who produced the painted bark paper books called codices, recording astronomical observations, tribute records, ritual calendars, and historical narratives, all worked through the afternoon in the specialized districts the Calpulli system had assigned them. The agricultural labor that kept the city fed continued through the afternoon as well. The chinampa farmers who had delivered produce to the markets in the morning returned to their plots to tend crops, repair the raised beds, and prepare the next round of planting. The productivity of the chinampa system was exceptional by any standard. At approximately 6 in the evening, drums sounded across the city's quarters to signal the close of the formal working day, and Tenochtitlan shifted into its evening mode. Markets closed and the canal traffic that had been moving steadily since before dawn began to thin. Households prepared their evening meal, which was typically lighter than the midday main meal, and consisted of reheated tortillas, bean preparations, and whatever remained from earlier in the day. The hearth fire that had been lit at dawn was banked for the night. Cooking fires inside densely packed wooden and thatch residential structures represented one of the most serious hazards in the city, and fire management was a matter of genuine civic concern. The Spanish accounts of Tenochtitlan consistently noted that the streets and canals were kept exceptionally clean by the standards of any city they had previously observed, in part because the city government operated what amounted to a sanitation service, including the famous waste collection canoes that transported human waste from public latrine facilities to the chinampas for use as fertilizer. As darkness settled over the lake, the city became quiet quickly. There was no public lighting beyond torches carried by individuals and the fires maintained at major temple complexes. Patrols of young warriors from the military schools moved through the main causeways and plazas, to discourage theft and to maintain order, but ordinary residents remained indoors after dark. The social and commercial life of the city operated entirely in daylight hours, and the transition from evening to night was a genuine boundary in daily practice. By midnight, Tenochtitlan was largely silent. The temple platform stood empty until the pre-dawn ceremonies resumed. The canals reflected whatever light came from the stars and from the occasional torch moving along a causeway. What the evidence tells us about daily life in Tenochtitlan is that it was organised, functional, and in several respects more sophisticated than the European cities that would eventually encounter and destroy it. The city that Cortes described in his letters was not an exotic curiosity. It was a working metropolis, and understanding it on those terms is the most accurate way to approach what was lost when it fell in 1521. If there is another city or another period you would like to examine in the same way, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to leave without subscribing to the channel and leave a like and hype if you enjoyed what you saw. Thank you, and see you next time.